Hello everyone, it's exactly 7 p.m., April 8th, 2020, and it is exactly 7, no joke about it. I don't even know why I would be lying about it, or why I have to actually justify the fact it is exactly 7 p.m. I mean, it's not as if I get some sort of internet brownie points, or like the Chinese social credit system, like I have to own up. Hey, believe me, make sure it's really 7 p.m. I mean, don't let me get away with that. I don't know why I would do that. So anyway, I just fucking wasted 45 seconds just justifying the fact it's 7 p.m. and it's still 7 p.m. It's probably gonna turn 7:01 a.m. p.m. Oh, how exciting! And it just turned 7:01 p.m. There's a live broadcast of the time time clock running out. The water of clepsydra, the sands of hourglass, the shade of sundial, the what else? Well, how many types of clocks are there? Well, that the and then there was the shorthand, longhand. Interesting. Maybe I should talk about that. I'm gonna name this segment Encyclopedic Mind because even though I don't have Encyclopedic Mind, but by putting the little doubt of the fact that I don't have encyclopedic mind, I just earned a little pity applause because you don't want to sound too cocky. You also want to sound like a fucking total cock. So yeah, let's talk about clocks. The invention of clocks. Who invented clock? Was sundial the primitive one? Sundial, sundial. I don't know what I'm talking about. There's also, although not a clock, that seismometer, the ancient Chinese seismometer with the frogs, with the balls in the frogs. By that I mean like fucking balls, like in the frog's mouth, like which falls, I think, in the dragon's mouth, not frog. I don't know. There could be different variations. But even before that, what would be the earliest way? Probably just a simple stick, I guess. If you're a caveman and if you're smart enough, I mean, well, all the chads are going fucking hunting mastodons and whatnot, like shooting pterodactyls, fucking roping in, lassoing in their fucking iguanodons and saber tooth, you know. that some guy would probably said, fuck you guys, fuck this shit. I'm staying the sort of the social outcasts of their life, the beatniks, the Allen Ginsbergs were, and the Timothy Leary is like probably, the anti-Illuminati, the 5G coronavirus conspirators of their days. I'm sure one guy stayed behind, one geeky guy, and probably he's probably the first one who had the deteriorating eye power. Anyway, so he probably put a stick and on the ground, and the shade, probably he followed the shade, and probably that was the earliest primitive crude form of sundial. And these are my hypotheses. I mean, this is just me rambling, like raking my database, rummaging my database, internal database, trying to pull out some random data about. Anyway, I know the clepsydra for a fact just because it's a stupid, unusual word. It's actually beautiful, unusual word. For some reason, I really like the word, so I keep harking back to it every podcast. So now I'm finally gonna talk about it. Was Heron the one who invented it? There was two, Heron and Hero. Hero of Alexandria, and there was a guy with the temple, open the temple that opened by itself, the doors. That was probably Hero, I think, or Heron of Alexandria. I don't know. Why did I even have to say? It's almost I'm saying. It's almost I'm doing Nagarjuna's tetralemma. Like, yeah, maybe he did invent it. Maybe he didn't. Who knows? Hey, maybe he did or did not invent it. Or neither he did not invent it or he did invent it. Or neither he did not invent it or not he did not he neither not did invent it. It's like I got my ass covered, like, on my grounds, anyways, grounds for my, this is my defense in case I get sued somehow in the court for spreading misinformation about fucking Heron's clepsydra. Probably there was the hourglass or no. Then it probably moved to sundials, and then probably they're also doing astronomical astronomy charts and whatnot. So they're doing this. One guy was just dedicated, so it's just specifically to track all these sidereal and effects and whatnot. There's this the zodiac people. I mean, what the Babylonians were probably the ancient astronomers. I mean, they're the one who came up with the azimuth, the constellations, and so around that time, I don't know. I'm not too sure about Greek astronomy. Probably there weren't any. But then again, Ptolemy was an astronomer, right? The earliest crude, the the OG of astronomy. Like he was the guy with the freaking the busting, fucking bouncing like those 1969 Buick and whatnot, hot rods, like freaking with like tats all over his body, like, and somehow he made it. He was there like Tupac, or not even Tupac, like he was like their game who finally made it to the top. Sorry if I pissed off any Spanish rappers out there because I mean I started with like the whole Santa and Anaheim gang type of thinking of their arch leader, and somehow um, I shifted swiftly to fucking. Anyways, I don't know. I don't even know why I'm bringing gang tarfare in this, and that's just deviating off, piggybacking off, like jumping off the gangplank of what single word of OG. Oh my god, what a terrible podcast this is. So yeah, we had Ptolemy, and they believe certain shitbaggy things. The Earth was probably at the center and whatnot, because the Ptolemaic model got overthrown by the Copernican model. So I'm sure the Ptolemaic model was held for a long time that it was at the center. So, and okay, so from clock I'm moving on to freaking, but they're interrelated astronomy, and so I don't want to talk about Herschel and like William Herschel, and the way I said I don't want to talk about William Herschel, it's almost like people are begging me to spit an encyclopedic fucking 8 page verse or drop on the on William Herschel and invention of fucking telescope and no, not invention of what do you call that? Neptune, I think he was the one who cited Neptune, or Uranus. Who cited Uranus? Who cited Neptune and Venus? So yeah, um, so we have the clocks, and clocks. Some of the modern clock were invented when? Because I mean, from because Houdin was doing dabbling with the machinery in 1800s. Um, Robert Houdin. So there was this age of automaton in France. And what about the period between Jesus and between ancient Greece and between like about 1600, or rather, post Dark Ages, the freaking like those Renaissance age. So that time, I mean, when was clock invented? Like there's a anachronism in Shakespeare's play where he talks about clock. I think it's funny because, like, yeah, like, cause Shakespeare, even though Shakespeare, that's kind of a weird. That's why Shakespeare is so difficult, I guess, because Shakespeare talks about certain. He himself was in the past, and he himself was talking about like Caesar. Shakespeare himself is from Shakespearean Elizabethan age and whatnot, and then we have Caesar, which is earlier. So that's why his plays get muddled to the newcomer. I mean, like because you're expecting Shakespeare to talk about his times, and you get further confused because it's like further like previous time, and it's like it's mess. It's horrible. So okay, going back to clocks. Then the Swiss pattern clock, and I mean, it's just got better and better and better, and now we have digital clocks. And then there was a grandfather clock, the pendulum. So Huygens, Dutch Huygens, the guy who came up with the pendulum thing, because you always see his photo in the children's encyclopedia. Huygens, Richard, or some Dutch Huygens. I don't know why I had to say his name 4 times. I just had to like reaffirm the fact that if I don't cry out Huygens, like Bloody Mary, like some ghostly orb will come and devour me or something. So, and what are various ways to measure time anyway? Like, even what Cryptos? There's in front of CIA building, the hardest code to solve. Cause like clock is kind of like it's like a code, I guess. Like not a code, like Well, how many times the different types of clock you can think of? The water clock, sand clock, clepsydra, the hourglass, the sundial, static one, which is not accurate, the crude form of clock, and then there is the pendulum one. There is the wristwatches. There's the digital clock. So that's pretty much all. And then there's probably binary clock. Although I don't know why you'd be using it. I mean, are there any binary clocks or not? No. Well, there's the military watches, military clocks, 24 hour. So someone made a distinction. Somehow, someone said we're gonna divide this whatever we're perceiving the reality into, I don't know, 24 parts, or and and certain seconds, and these are, and obviously time is man-made. Time is, I mean, we know it's man-made, but the way we go pretending our lives, like it's almost like we worship this time, like without even realizing what time really is. It's just like, suppose, in front of me it says 10 minutes 55 seconds 56, it's like trickling the seconds, but it's almost like as if that we worship the trickle, like as if that's how, even though it is, but that further makes us trip even more on our own feet, like how we because time is just what do you call that, representation of change, transformation, and like this change. And somehow we sort of decided to formalize, not even formalize it, because this is again another man-made concepts. So we do that, and then it's same with money, and but time to the lesser extent. Time is money. The maxim goes, time is gold, right? So I mean, and we worship this change effect, and that even by doing so, we miss what's right in front of us. So, anyways, going back to clocks, probably they used to have pocket watches in their hands, and that was the earliest form of the wristwatch, the precursor to wristwatches. And I wonder what it'd be like to wearing a. This is my idea again. Don't steal it. Dare steal it, Apple. Well, why would like any other companies? Hey, like, yeah, what if you had a sundial on a clock, like a wristwatch? I'm sure there is. There's nothing new under the sun. I mean, with 6 billion people, everyone freaking smoking hash and whatnot, you're bound to come up with some unique design for a watch, or like, and I'm sure they have like where sandal. It's just the entire wristwatch. There's this thing sticking out, like this, and that reminds me of Jantar Mantar. That's also, even though it's not a clock, it's kind of like a, what do you call those? Not even a sextant. The like a astronomy, not even a chart, like a, what do you call that? Yeah, it's kind of like Stonehenge or something. Like, it's like a, not even a computer. Like, what do you call that? That measures, that detects the astronomical components. I don't know. I don't know what they're called. And then the moon came into play at night, and people started doing traditions, Eid festivals. So uh and then New Year celebrations, these are all based on, these are, we live in a, we deny astrology, but that's what we exactly are. We're an astrology steeped creatures, like, whether it be Muslim or Lent. Just Lent based on, I don't think Lent is based on, well, it's based on dates, and that's for like, or some certain April, like Easter and everything. These are based on certain, and these are all abstract. We choose, we have this, we pretend that we have some artificial programs like these like artificial notions actually, and even measurements. So basically, mankind fucked itself up by trying to be too smart. Basically, then we come up with artificial measurements, pounds and grams and whatnot, and yeah, it probably made things efficient. It's kind of like some laws are like, laws make the traffic move flow in the road efficient, but if you start creating like 10,000 laws and rules, then you just reach a stalemate. So yeah, so we have all these things, but then we get into details, like we start doing mayfly research and like measure everything to the minute microns and whatnot, and then we lose our hair over it if someone spills our how the freaking, I don't know, like ketchup, and then it destroys some. Do you know like Carlyle, a historian? He was working on the he used to work on the history of England actually, and he compiled this whole this manuscript, and there were volumes and volumes, well, pages and reams of pages. And his wife threw once thought these were junk, and they threw them away in the fireplace. And Carlyle was away, and he came back, and he was like, "Oh, you poor lady, wretched lady, what did you do, you wretched fool?" And then he had to reconstruct the entire work of Carlyle, um, from his own work basically, to from scratch. That's the level of superhuman patience he had. It'd be easier if you wrote a, I mean, if you're the author, but still, I mean, imagine you write, you're like one of those Proust, you write all those Proustian volumes, and somehow you lose all these, and then you have to. It's a bitch, yeah. And you just lose motivation. That's the main factor. Maybe I should read Carlyle's History of England or something. Maybe that's how I should spend my quarantine time. Just going through, blasting through history, the historical archives. I mean, so clocks, watches, time, and there are so many ways to measure time, and we can do it with so much quote unquote accuracy. Thus, the whole, what do you call those quartz crystals, and the the I forget my. I once came up with the design for the blind. Okay, now I remember. Just because like triggered that memory, which was basically, in my science fair class, I thought of it, this sort of this design for the blind to see. It was like a sunglass, and it was all theoretical bullshit. And I wasn't even smoking dope or anything. I mean, but that's actually, I wish I had that, because that was pretty creative actually, the way I approached it, even though it was a bullshit, pulling shit out of my ass, like how piezoelectric effects, piezoelectric, and it's almost like, yeah, somehow for the blind could like see an image, 3D image in their head based on vibrations outside the reflection. That was pretty actually, when you think about it. And if I could objectively, neutrally, like give myself some credit, that's pretty incredible for a boy of fucking 14 or 15, 13, I guess. What, I think I was even older, probably 15. You know, imagining that's when the world found out he was a genius. That's when the world, that was, it was palpable. The world got the first shock. The first dent was made. No, I mean, so yeah, I mean, so there was a piezoelectric effect where by quartz oscillations, I guess. Yeah, cesium clock. Now I remember, cesium clock. So that's based on that's the highest, well, not the highest, most accurate unit, atomic clock unit. There you go. Now it is all coming. It's all coming like Celine Dion. It's all coming back to me. Um, so the cesium clock, that's based on the cesium oscillations. I think like some many oscillations in like like whatever. That's how second is defined. Like some specific 2 million or whatever. I think. And again, don't quote me on that one. Don't quote Professor Z on that one. Okay. Okay. So, um, what else? Okay. I wonder how efficient, well, effective, or even moonlight candle can be. That's another form, actually, another type. Another type of, or anything that burned. And we talk about moonlighting, certain like law school or whatnot. Probably, yeah, I have to do one of those deep yogic breaths to calm myself down every like freaking 5 minutes. So no, I don't have to do it. I'm just saying. I mean, because yeah, there are some people who be like, "Oh shit, you shouldn't even be podcasting." You're like, where is your inhaler? Like, what if I fucking choke and croak to death? I mean, nah. Just by podcast, those funny deaths. Like some guy died laughing. What if you died podcasting? Like you you burned yourself out by talking too much, and you then you collapse because I talked too much. Like 19 minutes of 23 seconds, like trying to make it to 19 hours, like David Blaine of talking. I mean, yeah. So we have those kind of clocks, and I wonder when it was the advent of digital clocks, the earliest, the time when time of the digital clock was introduced, or the time when time itself split into AM and PM, or like how was it? What was the Because 24-hour clock has been there for a long time, I think so. Because when we date, like, some people can say, like, oh, Pliny the Elder was reading his book at 4 p.m. Or probably not Pliny the Elder, but I'm sure, like, yeah, whenever the hour was divided into 24 hours and seconds, that's the earliest record of history we can, like, from the, I don't know what I'm talking about. So how does the whole mechanism work? Something as do you define arbitrary number of oscillations to construct an arbitrary unit, and you base an entire foundation of mathematics, or no, mathematics of time and measurement, basically measurement out of that. So it's all, once our linear algebra professor was saying how, if you break down mathematics, you go into, like, quantum forms and whatnot, and finally you get to realize everything is just you literally made out of thin air. It's kind of a vacuum, and it's true. Like set theory, mathematics is based on set theory, ZFC, and whatnot. Now that itself is like you take the empty set and recurse it, and you construct this notion. But still, the act of recursion. I mean, again, I don't want to go on a mathematics is not airtight as people like to think it is rant. I don't want to go off tangent on that route, but it's relevant, tangential to the fact that measurement has to do with, well, measurement. So, and even numbers, because whenever when the people, the tribe was thinking of numbers, the stars in the sky, and it was like this another, like, sort of this, not what do you call it, sensory, like a overload, and of collective sensory overload, and you have all these things, and your brain is not developed as we are now. That would be extremely interesting if someone were to go back, and if someone were to, like, time travel, like a Neanderthal or like Cro-Magnon, and you compare their brain activity. How different are we? Probably they wouldn't have neocortex activity shown, or I mean, or even they do, even, or probably if you just the fact by immersion of a Neanderthal in our present environment is gonna have his synapses explode, basically, like this massive neurogenesis. It'll be psychedelic experience for him. So I mean, imagine, and the same way, probably right now, I the like, imagine like 10,000, if humanity survives civilization, whether it be what one 10,000 years from now, or like 100,000, or even who knows. Imagine by that time it just gets mind-bogglingly, like, meaningless. Like 100 million years from now, humanity, can they survive? How long has humanity been on this earth? Not even, at least 2,000 years, and then what? Well, you have to think of the Cro-Magnons, so it's like, and that was probably what, a million years ago. I don't know how many. I'm just saying. I'm throwing random numbers. So even if, like, 10,000, let's say 10,000 years. So humanity has been for 10,000 years. So imagine another 10,000. How different we will be. Like, there is a good Professor Shonku story by Calcutta, like a Calcutta Bengali writer, Oscar winner Satyajit Ray. He talks about this thing where he was looking at this glass jar, and he was doing this experiment when he created, and what happened was, he had some chemicals, like arbitrary, kind of like the primordial elements, and then he basically created a test tube, in his test tube, those triangular test tubes, jars, beakers. He created an artificial environment, mimicking, simulating the earliest form of Earth, and then suddenly there was this lightning and showers. The water from the environment just made clouds, and it was lightning shower, and then somehow there was a sudden flicker of light, and finally one day he saw something, and he recognized to his horror, it's a man. It's like the old, like a tiny miniature Lego sized man, like a Neanderthal or something. and and then he, just before his eyes, in a smallest scale, though, like a small scale of time frame, it evolved, and finally it kept evolving until finally it became some sort of like this spiritual being, like a light or something. So intuitively, and that's even similar to the Asimov concept, that how somehow there'll be singularity merge of light, and we have the inherent concept of light, like we are the light, we'll emerge on the other side to the light, whether it be that, or even if humanity evolves, some quote unquote, whatever that evolution means, be it spiritual or physical transformation, like it's almost this inherent, and even heliotropic, and like proprioception is not. It's almost this, we have this in the archetype, Jungian archetype, we have this concept where humanity is constantly moving towards light. We have the concept. When I was a kid, I used to write science fiction stories in Bengali, and that was another intuitive idea where I conceived a super villain, but who was nothing but light. And I was like, I don't know, how old was I? I think I was like freaking 10 or something. And intuitively, like, he was the villain, and I still remember the name Laika, after the dog that went to space apparently. Laika, and I called him the Light, and it was like the concept of super villain, omniscient super villain. No, Spika, I think, not Laika, Spika. Yeah, but I had to change one word. That was my creative ingenuity in Bengali. I wrote the book, and I'm the story, and I wish I had it. Like, and the light moves around, sort of this ball of energy that moves around everywhere. And probably I got that concept probably reading Tintin, because there's this sort of this balls, orbs that swiveling, those seven crystal balls of light that not swiveling, this swirling. And probably it was all intuitive. I mean, collective intuitive, that it's archetypal. And so yeah, and that feeling I even got under salvia, like how when I tried salvia one day, and it was almost like I was that ball of energy, and everyone, my mom, like everyone was this energy, and you can, like a spirit, like a star, that's like star, what it is, like an energy thing. Everyone has that sort of that energy, feelings, vibration. We are ultimately vibrational being. I mean, if you shed this layer, outer exodermis, exoskeleton, and even the literal physical exoskeleton, probably this orb, this halation of light, this aura of light, that's what we really are. And some people can probably like identify like that in then, like whether it be Carlian photography or like aura reader. Who knows, I mean, who knows? So we are probably evolved, like in fact, like light beings, spiritual light beings, and we're pretending we're in this shell-like things. And whenever you have your DMT and whatnot, that you peek behind the carbonate, where the veil comes off, and phew, you're out of this world. And the way I'm saying it as if I've done it, but like that's the sort of the third person report you get. And but my uh my qualm with psychedelics is, why would you even wanna try it? Like, it's kind of like a cheat sheet, the code, those answers at the back of a math book. Why would you want to do it? Like, you want to work it out for himself yourself, just to do the struggle. Just like Chao Chu was asked, what is the Tao? And he answered, ordinary consciousness is the Tao. um so I started with clock, ended up with fucking Taoism and shit. I don't know. But it's, again, then my knowledge on clocks is very sparse. There's also like this, not a clockology, I'm sure. Chronology is not like order of events, timeline, study of, but chronometer is study of like measurement of time. But what is this hobby of like clock studying is called, like chronology, not chronology. I'm sure there's one like where Kronos, the Greek god, Kronos was the Greek god. Was it Kronos? Yeah. And then out of his forehead came Zeus, and it was all chaos, like primordial chaos. How it's funny how if Kronos is the father of time, and how it is all chaos, how the concept of chaos theory, like not chaos theory, like the concept of chaos is somehow uh not conflated, like unified with the idea of time. Like, it's almost like in the beginning it was all, either it was all perfect, then it became imperfect, and then we're moving towards perfection. Like, or some people might believe it was chaos, or like Adam biting the apple, be it when you're done moving away from the pristine state of Tao, or whether it be. So I'm not sure, folks. Something is going on underneath there, Colonel. I don't know, Jack. Oh, I don't know why I broke out in this fucking Reno 911 sheriff character. I mean, as if fucking like two detectives, two cosmic cosmonauts, this fucking like psychos who apparently has some kind of stupid warped retarded Indiana accent and is trying to figure out what that. Hey, officer. Oh I don't know what I'm talking about. Hey, Sharky. I think we got something fishy happening here. I shouldn't even try. I know. If you can't do something well, don't even fucking try. It's like, I mean, dude, stop. I mean, yeah. You're just embarrassing yourself. I mean, you should see some people when they start freestyling. Freestyling under like fucking weed. Oh god, it's like so. I mean, if you think I'm cringeworthy, just go to your local party, like a house party, and watch someone fucking freestyle when stoned.